You found why we are Christians. Again, we are in the second part of our interview with Anatoliy Sokolov, pastor of the First Baptist Church of Klin, part of the Moscow district. He's just flown in. He says he's a little jet-lagged, right, Anatoly? You've come to America. We've been friends for many years now. And the story where we left it was you're at the University of Moscow. You're in a PhD program, electronics engineering. You are involved in the development of color television, the transition from black and white to color television in Russia.
Correct, yeah. Yeah.
And you're getting this PhD, and all of a sudden, there's a change. What happened?
Then they changed the attitude. So they made asking me to show that I'm late, that I'm not completely do what I have to do. I'm late for this program, late for that, and so. And they accused me that it's my fault, but it was not my fault. They accused me it's my fault, and my advisor actually escaped from me to talk and to continue and to help. And then I was confused. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what's going on. I was a young boy, and something never happened with me like that before. And I thought, what's going on? And nobody told me what's going on. Nobody told me the truth.
Now, this is in the Soviet Union era.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was 69. Then I went to the Baptist church, came to the general secretary of the Baptist unit. He was about 75 years old. Very nice, very wise, humble, nice preacher, evangelist, Alexander Karev, very wonderful preacher. And he just a few years ago came from the prison. He was sent to prison for being a believer for 10 years.
10 years.
10 years. And when he came out, he was elected as the general secretary of the Baptist Union. Then I came to him for a private talk, and I told him what's going on with me, and that I didn't understand what's going on. He looked at me wisely, nicely, told me humbly, said, "My brother, my brother, what are you going to do? Why you went there to study? They never allow you to study like that. You know, the believer, and to be a highly educated scientist, that it means you will be a boss in certain positions. The communists never allow you to be a boss. My advice to you, give it up right now and join the Baptist Union. And I invite you to work for the Baptist Union." I said, okay. I wasn't ready to answer this question to him. And I said, "Only one question to you," he said to me. "I have to warn you. If you say yes and join the Baptist and be a pastor, it means in this country now there is no money and pension guaranteed when you will be retired for retirement. For believers, for pastors, there is no pension plans in this country. Are you ready to be without money when you will be an old man?" It was a shock for me. I didn't know that. And I looked at him and I said, if there is a God's will for me to be, He will take care of me when I will be old. That is, I trust the Lord, and He will take care, I'm sure. He looked at me and said, "Now I'm fine now. So you have a strong faith. Come to us and work." So I gave up that work and study and came to the Baptist Union and become a member of the staff of the Baptist Union, did some some work for the international department, started to learn more English and so, and preaching, studying the Bible, everything. And then it was a time when they opened the doors. There were invitations in early 70s, 72, 73, there were invitations from all the Baptist unions, seminaries to come to study. Britain, Germany, Sweden, Finland, and Germany, Sweden, 4 countries. They invited students.
Send
the invitation.
These Christian educators came to Moscow.
They sent the letters to the Baptist Union. We have possibility to educate your people because you don't have your own seminary. We didn't have our own seminary. So we opened the door for you to free to come to study. So Baptist unions all around these European countries invited us to come. And I was elected to study, to go.
And where did you go?
Britain, Spurgeon's College.
Where?
Great Britain, Spurgeon's College.
Spurgeon's College in England. Wow.
Yeah,
the great Charles Haddon Spurgeon.
Yeah, and Beasley Murray was my first principal in the Spurgeon's College. A wonderful preacher. Beasley Murray, that's a good name, but for English, the most known in England.
Yes. Now, where was the school located in England?
It's south of London, close to Croydon.
Upper Norwood, it's right in that
Norwood,
area. Where,
very close to Norwood.
Yes, I stayed for some period of time in Upper Norwood.
So there is wonderful.
Right by the Crystal Cathedral, and there was Spurgeon's tomb was nearby.
Yeah.
And I remember visiting the
Exactly.
great Baptist preacher's tomb.
And we even brought the flowers to his tomb.
Did you really? Well,
yeah.
we've been to the same place there.
Yeah, exactly.
Spurgeon, yeah.
Exactly.
So you had the incredible opportunity to study at that school in England.
Yeah.
Now, what was your favorite subject?
Actually, we were in such a special course because we were allowed to be there 2.5 years only, but not the whole course, 4 years. So mostly the New Testament.
Mostly New Testament?
Mostly New Testament, yeah.
Okay.
And I wrote the works, not typed, but I wrote by hands the works. And I remember my marks were A and A minus. And they corrected my English. When I returned,
yeah,
Presidium of the Baptist Union discussed where me to send, what church to give to me for my spiritual work. Because actually I was a member of the council, Baptist Union, but I had to have a church to belong to, I mean, to stick with.
Of course, yes.
And they gave me this small, poor church in Klin.
Klin, right back there, and you're
75.
75, and you're still there.
Yeah, I'm still there.
You're still there.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord, Anatoly.
And I built a new church there. I built a new church. I started with 20 people, then we grew out to 120 people, and built the church, all the spread of the city around.
Yes.
And that was God's will.
Yes. Yeah, wow. Well, you've been at your church since 75. I've been at mine since 84. Mm-hmm. So you've been pastor there for 42 years.
Not a pastor. I first was as a preacher, and I just, because I had my job in the Baptist Union, I had many business trips, all the other responsibilities, but I used to go there on Sundays to preach only. Then in 89, we had an older pastor there. He was about 85 or 80 something, and he said, it's too difficult for me. He asked the church council, offer to elect me. It's very, very interesting. He offered to the church council. It is a story to tell how it happened. To elect me as a deacon. As a deacon, they had to elect as a pastor. And then they both of us asked to leave the room, we'll discuss. 40 minutes, they didn't call us. 40 minutes, we didn't know what's going on there, trembling. And then they called us both, went there, the old pastor could not talk. He was pale, trembling. He even didn't say what's going on. I thought that it was like a fight there, struggle. So they had a different opinion. And finally, they said one of the church members of the church council, that you tell them what we decided. They decided he wanted me to be a deacon, but they decided me to be a pastor, a deacon, to remain a deacon. You have to remember, but to be a pastor in Russia since 75 or so, I never received a salary. Money, never, from the church, never. That was somebody thinks that your pastor means you have a salary. Never.
Oh, so at the Baptist Union you had a salary.
Then I had a salary.
But if you were going to be the pastor of that church in Klin, no salary.
No salary. Just take a time of prayer to know the real will of God. 6 months later, the church council gathered again and wrote a special letter of application to the superintendent, asking him to ask me to agree to be a pastor.
No, I have to Anatoly now. I got to ask you this.
So finally I said yes, at God's will.
Okay, so you said yes, okay. But do the people at the church at the Baptist Church in Klin, do they tithes and offerings?
Yeah, we're actually offering. We have offerings every Sunday, but tithing, it's we're teaching them. We're not insistent. Some people tithe and some not.
But they didn't pay for the church didn't pay for the support of the pastor.
No.
No.
In my church now, we're paying only secretary and a treasurer. One person has an official salary.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, that's unusual.
But I have my pension now.
Oh, you have a pension?
Yes.
Okay, so you're...
I have a big pension, very big pension.
Very large, I'm sure it's large.
$250 a month, it's a lot.
Now, Anatoly, let me ask you about Rima now. What is Rima doing all this time?
Now?
No, during this period.
So she worked on the television, continued to work.
She still was working in the television?
She was still working in the television till the retirement age. Then she retired.
Okay.
That's it.
So she continued to work, and she's retired now?
She retired, actual age of retirement, 55. 55 in Russia.
55?
For women. For
women. How about for men?
60.
60. Today, that's like that right now? Wow. They have a bunch of people your and I age with not anything to do.
Yes. I retired in 60, so 13 years I have my pension.
Okay.
But before I had to find out the resources to survive.
Yes, you did.
I did.
And that's one of the reasons you were coming to America.
Exactly.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is my son Vernon has been handling that.
Yes, that's right.
He's been handling that. That's right.
Thanks to him. He did a very faithful work.
He has done very faithful work. You're right, Anatoly. So now here you are at the church. You finally said yes. Mm-hmm. You figured out this is the will of God for you to pastor this little church. Tell us about the church then.
It's as understood so many things to be changed. Firstly, there were mostly all elderly people, not so many young people. That was important. The first baptism, by the way, first baptism was in 1980 in that area for the church. And if you remember the year when we had the Olympic Games in Russia, which actually somebody some blocked, to go for Olympics to Russia and so on. In 1980, but authorities, and when we wanted to baptize, we baptized outside in the river, a river very near to the church. And we were ready to go to baptize 6 people, actually, were the 1980. And authorities said to us, no. They didn't allow us to spend 5 minutes to baptize 5 people, because they had some kind of strange fear or afraid that we should go to manifest, to protest, or something like that. Well, of course, we didn't intend. We wanted just to go to the Rio. But they have their ideas, understanding that, and they said, no, we're not allowed, not allowed, not allowed. So we went deep to the forest, found the lake, and did the baptism there.
You did?
Yes. And then later on, especially 90s, 91, 92, 93, it was a very specific years for our country. Soviet Union collapsed, many things just a chaos, destroyed, everything just no food in the stores. It was absolutely empty stores. This was something really difficult. And then we didn't know how to help people, what to do. And that was actually, that's a year of difficulties and at the same time year of blessings, a lot of blessings. At the year 91, I remember I had my friend from Washington, D.C., who was usually organizes prayer breakfast, national prayer breakfast.
Yes.
And he invited me for prayer breakfast to come in Washington. He invited me to come. And when after the prayer breakfast, every year at the February, presidential prayer breakfast here. And so I stayed here in Washington for some days later, and he said, we have a church nearby.
You have a what?
The church nearby, near Bethesda.
Okay.
Bethesda in Washington area.
Bethesda, Maryland, yes.
In Maryland, and there is a church where Vice President of United States, Al Gore. Al Gore is a member and goes, people quite unpopular. So we can go there for Sunday. So I was brought there. I didn't talk, I was just put in there. But my friends, after the service, introduced to the pastor. But pastor was from Britain. It's a new pastor from Great Britain. Just few months arrived there, they had, and I said that I was educated in Britain. He said, yes. Where do you know somebody? I said, I know this, I know a steer, I know that. Oh, that's my friend. We found so many friends, and he told me, do you know Steer? John Steer is in our group of Spurgeons, but his father here, right now. And he said, tonight we have a service. You, point on me, and the Steer will lead the service. So the inner service was for us, we both. But the miracle happened at the end. When I told that it's about really tragical situation with the food in Russia, how suffering Russian people in those 91, those years, and he had a bit strange idea, the pastor, British in America. He said, let's just have an offering to help, especially for feeding program, for soup kitchen in Russia, to help elderly people in Anatoliy's church. And people started to bring money. That was the first donation. And believe me, I actually didn't know what to do. It was very strange. It's the first time I didn't know what to do with money. So when I came to Russia, I said, how can I do that? So I went to the administration of the city, mayor, deputy mayor, and I said, this is a problem. I have money to start the soup kitchens, to do that, but I don't know how. How can you help me? Give me needy people, a list of the needy people, and to help to arrange it. He was shocked. He said, everybody come to me, give, asking. But the only one who came with bringing money. And I started 14 soup kitchens in the city. Elderly people were fed there every $1 for one good lunch. $1. So it was such a price there. We agreed that the local cafes and restaurants and so will prepare the food. We don't need to have a space. They prepare, but we give them money. But we actually prepared the tickets with the name of the church. That was my demand. Name of the church and the stamp of the church. That to know that this food comes from the church.
And this is the Klin Church.
It's a Klin Church, but not from the social city committee, something like. No, it's our. And we said, second, my demand is let us check how it be going there. Let us bring the gospel also. So we checked in this feeding program how it went on, and given the Bible, written about Christ, they took. You can't believe that such conditions. At 12 o'clock opens the restaurants for feeding programs, and then, but hour before the old people are already there, waiting, hour before. They're waiting. When give the Bible, they kiss the Bible, and we talk about it, and our church started to grow.
Yes, I
20 people, 120 people. It's like that, started to grow. That was the fruits from these feeding programs from the first money which I brought from Washington, D.C.,
So that started in the early 90s, and you're still doing it?
No, we did it about 3 years.
Oh, you did it about 3 years?
Yes, okay. Then we had no funds, no resources. And then the church is growing, and we said, what about, quite a number of people used to push me because I had small church building. They pushed me until we have to have a new church. Said, do you understand how difficult to build a church? Do you understand how much it costs now? No. They actually made me to learn the lesson. They said, Pastor, you have to have a faith.
Okay, I'm going to show that. Just about at this point, I'm going to show that building again.
Yes.
The people watching will see the building that has been built.
And when they said, I said, sorry, yes, you're right. Let's give the 6 months to pray for. Then we prayed, and I stopped in the middle of the service. I brought people outside of the church. We put the space there. We prayed on the church. It was just a garden at that time. And now the wonderful church building, and you will show the picture.
Yes. Now, when we first met, this was in process.
Yeah.
You guys were doing that.
Yeah.
Because that's what we called it, the Klin. At our Miller Avenue Church in Mill Valley, we called it the Klin Ministry.
Yes, that's right.
And money came in, and we received it, and then we passed it along to you.
That's right. But it was 7 years for me to build a church.
Yeah.
And the dedication was in July 2001. Dedication of your church, but it was not completely finished. Basement was not good. Now we have a wonderful basement. It's for meetings, for fellowship halls, and so we completed a bit later. But dedication was in July. It took another 2 years. So practically 2003 it was complete. Finished.
Now we don't have a lot of time, but I want to get into one last little question.
Why I'm a Christian?
No. What I'm interested in, what is the state of Christianity in Russia today?
That's a good question. Thank you very much, because that's a really very important question. Being real quick, in '88, kind of freedom came when we celebrated millennium of Christianity in Russia. Then easy. So it was kind of, we experienced the freedom. And then after 1996, is getting worse and worse and worse.
Now,
Why
what do you mean by worse
96?
and worse?
Means freedom of evangelize. Before we can have outside gathering, meetings, crusades, call people to come, have a public places, giving them a Bibles and so. Then not allowed.
Do you know why?
I know why. Because 1996, Yeltsin, President Yeltsin, former, he signed the law which makes the Protestant churches, all the Protestant churches, like a second-class people by law. It means they announced that there are four religious, groups in Russia. They call them traditional religion in Russia. I never knew that tradition in Russia, it was Judaism. I never knew about that. Islam, Buddhism, is logically should be Christianity. No word Christianity. It was a Russian Orthodox Church.
Okay.
Because that is a religion, but that is only one church. What about the Catholic? What about Protestant? What about other Christian groups? Never mentioned in the law. When the law was signed by Mr. Yeltsin, first two people in the world, next morning, sent immediate telegram of protest, trying to reconsider. You know who? Clinton, President of the United States, and Pope from Rome. After that, it was stopped, the law, after this protest. It took another 3 or 4 months, then signed again with the same things.
Now, would you say, we've only got less than a minute,
Yeah.
would you say that Christianity is growing in Russia now?
I would say formally, yes.
Formally, yes.
Yes. If you stop people on the streets, I'm Christian. Oh, yeah, I'm Christian. What do you mean with a Christian? They really don't know what it means to be a Christian.
Okay.
That's the problem.
All right, I see. Well, so you're still preaching,
Yes.
and other people are preaching,
Yes.
and you never know what God may bring forth. Anatoly, it's been a real pleasure. After all these years of knowing each other,
Yeah.
periodically you come here, we get to
Praise
see
God,
you, and we're going to get to hear you preach a little bit, not too long, because I'm preaching,
I know.
and her husband's preaching.
I know.
So,
I have seen in computer the program for Sunday.
but anyway, here's the end of our program with Anatoliy Sokolov, pastor, First Baptist Church of Klin in the Moscow district. And we invite you to be looking for more programs on why we are Christians. So long.